from last week, man, I cannot thank the Going Band from Raiderland more. I mean, what an impact they made. It was really cool coming out, and we're in pregame, and I hear them crank up, and they were loud, and they made an impact, and they also made an impact on some of our recruits. I had have a group text with all our guys, and they're texting me going, man, we could hear the band through the television, and so that was really cool. So I can't say enough how much I appreciate them. It's exciting to be back home, homecoming, in front of the best fans in the country. We really need our student body this week. This is a huge game for us, and so we need our students to show up like they always do, be there early, be extremely loud. I think they're going to have an impact on the game, the energy that they're going to bring, and so it'll definitely help us. We're playing a really tough opponent, the defending Big 12 champs in K-State. They do a great job of stopping the run. They're number one in the conference in defending the run. And so it's going to be fun just schematically and just being a football geek, if our fans out there, who can impose whose will, because we're running the football at a really good rate right now, and we're going to continue to do that. And they've done a good job stopping the run. And it's a great coach, and Coach Kleiman, he does a phenomenal job. Great culture guy. You can see how hard their guys play, and that comes from his energy. And so it's going to be a really good matchup. Really excited about playing those guys. Scout Team Players of the Week for last week were Tanner Allen and Marcus Ramon Edwards. Gave us great looks, kind of a IR update. Charlie Robinson will be back this week. Jordan Brown will be back this week. Day-to-day guys are going to be Bryce Ramirez. You might have saw him walking around. He was in with the coaches a while ago going through some of the game plan. Mason Tharp. Mason practiced yesterday. We're going to get him going early in practice tomorrow, kind of see where we're at. Another kind of day-to-day guy. Cole Spencer, kind of see where his foot is. And then Jacob Rodriguez is probably going to be – he's probably a week away, more BYU, but he was in yesterday and today getting treatment and, kind of see where his foot is. And so those are kind of the main guys, that are back, and then the guys that are kind of week to week. So with that, I'll open up with any questions.
Hey, Coach, a lot of guys on defense had a great game last week, but Linton really showed up the way I think a lot of us expected and talked about in the offseason. It's really 3 halves in a row. He's played really well. How does that change what y'all could do on defense and affect opposing offenses?
Well, you make a great point, because he made a lot of plays in the second half against Houston pressure-wise, and then he got home, against Baylor. Said it after the game, and I want to say it again. A lot of credit. He had an ankle. He sprained his ankle at the end of the Houston game, and a lot of credit goes to our training staff. I mean, they did a great job. I mean, literally Friday morning he's in the pool here. Friday, as soon as we get to the hotel, he's in the pool getting rehab. They get him up Saturday morning the same way, and so I think one thing with him. He's starting to feel more comfortable in the defense. He's finishing pass rush moves. That's the one thing. A lot of times, I learned this from, Matt Rule. He was a defensive line coach at one point. Learned it from Rob Marinelli. I mean, when you throw a pass rush move, if you don't finish that pass rush move, even if you don't get home, if you don't finish it, you really didn't rush the passer. You kind of quit. And that's what some of the guys are doing. They'll get right in the middle of it, and it doesn't work, and then they start to panic. I think both Steve and a lot of guys, this last week, Charles, they did a good job of finishing their moves, and that's been a big emphasis in practice.
You mentioned K-State's rush defense, and they all have done a great job running the ball here recently. And Coach Kittley talks a lot about audibling at the line and everything, but at what point, and have you gotten to this point yet, do you say, we're going to run the ball until you stop us consistently? Have you all reached that point yet?
Yeah, I think it's making an emphasis on what a good box is. versus just an absolute, hey, you're fixing to bang your head into the wall type box. I mean, we all know on 3rd and short, 4th and short, sometimes you just say, hey, look, I'm going to bang my head in here, and try to get the tough yards. But, on normal downs, 1st and 2nd down, I think that we're being a more aggressive team in the run against, boxes that we might have checked out of. I thought Barron did a really good job of understanding, the game the other night. There were some that he said, hey, I normally would have checked out of this, but I felt like we were still in decent shape to run the football the way we were running the football. The offensive line right now, they have a really, they have a lot of confidence in our run game and what we're doing schematically. Taj and Cameron have a lot of confidence in what they're doing. And so I think that we're being more aggressive in the run in some of the boxes we normally check out of. I think one thing, the next part of that I think will definitely show up in some games is when people do try to stop us in some of those boxes of us being able to go play action or some kind of RPO, to take advantage of some of the stuff they're doing. If they're playing their safeties real hard and fast, how we could take advantage of that. But, right now, I mean, we start off by, how can we run the football? What are going to be good runs into these boxes? And just because, man, our offensive line has a lot of confidence right now, and then Taj is playing as well as anybody in the country.
Coach, talking about Jacob Rodriguez possibly being back next week, how do you plan on rearranging that linebacker room once he's back?
The good thing, I think, with us defensively, we play a lot of guys anyway. I mean, we played 4 linebackers last week, and so I think he'll be, when he gets back, if it's Saturday or next week, it's going to be more of maybe the first game, a quarter of the snaps to half the snaps, and getting him back going. I mean, he's chomping at the bits. He wants to play so bad, but, we want to be really smart with him. We want to make sure he's ready to go. But I think it's going to be split, of a good rotation and what he's going to be able to do. For me, what we've got to do, what we've done with Ben is we've kept him at Mike. When Jacob is fully back, we've got to be able to play Ben at Mike and Will, because that just helps us tremendously of having the best guys on the field. We were able we haven't done this with Josiah until last week. Whenever he came back, we had him majority of the reps taken at Will, but he took some reps at Mike, to be able to spell Ben if we needed to spell him. And so I think now that rotation, it's going to be interesting. It'll probably be more like 3 weeks whenever you're saying that he could play every snap. Do you move Bryce back to outside linebacker, or do you keep him at inside linebacker too? Moving Bryce to inside linebacker has definitely helped the room as far as he's got one of the strongest voices on the team. And I think, again, putting him in the middle of the defense has helped us.
And talking on your own performance, back in September after the Oregon game, you said that you weren't happy with where you were at as a coach. How do you feel now? We're at 500. You've got back-to-back wins in the conference. How do you feel about your own performance right now?
Well, I want to win every game, so I'm never happy unless we're doing that. I mean, I'm happy after a win. That was a big win for us, and the one thing, quite honestly, I came into the team yesterday. We always start off, with giving each other a hand. Thought the guys did a great job, but I told the team, thank you from me and Debbie, because it was a big win. We spent 5 years at that place and have a lot of memories, and it was weird going into that stadium, being on the other side, and that was a big win personally. But I think we're definitely growing as a staff. I'm always trying to grow. I'm always trying to learn from the things that way I can do things better. We tried something different on the road, and we were successful. We're definitely trying to do that. We're trying to figure out how, if we can fly into Provo. It's a lot easier because we're staying in Salt Lake City. So, I hate to get ahead, but just since you asked that question, is we've never walked the field on a Friday at a place. And, I called Jeff Traylor, who's played really well on the road at UTSA, and he said, I've tried that. So we did that. And so just trying to grow and figure out, how we can be better, how I can be better. I'll feel a lot better getting this win at home and getting to 4-3 and being, 3-1 in conference and, and trending in the right direction.
Coach, halfway through the season, where do you think the strength of the team is right now, and what do you still need to improve on in the back half for you to be happy?
Yeah, for us to continue to really grow as a team, the things that I'm happy with, we're running the football. The way we're running the football is helping us settle the game down. It's helping us control some different situations. Once again, because of that, we had some big plays in the passing game, so I'm happy with that. I think we definitely have to grow, and play off the run. We need more big plays in the passing game off the run, not just straight drop back, but, our play action. We got to get some guys going, at receiver that we definitely can and will. It was frustrating the other night. It was a good call, but it's frustrating the other night, the OPI, because that was fixed to be a big play, and we get one of our better players really going with Bradley. So, I think we've got some good plans for him to affect the game definitely on Saturday, and he's fired up about it. Defensively, I thought we did a good job of stopping the run. That's what we've got to do. I mean, you've got to make people one-dimensional. You're playing a team. I think I don't know if it's exactly him. I'm pretty sure it was. But when K-State played Central Florida, the running back had 200 yards rushing. And so once again, we've got to come in. They've got a veteran offensive line. We've got to come in and we've got to stop the run. I think defensively for me, the growth has to be more consistent. We let Shapen out of the pocket a couple times. That was pass rush lanes. Y'all kind of been a broken record with that a little bit. We've got to keep getting better at that. Usually whenever you have things happen like those sacks, it gets guys really going, and things happen in bunches. And so we affected the quarterback in the second half against Houston. We affected the quarterback the entire game against Baylor, and so we need to continue that. I think those are the things we're doing well that we've got to continue. Things that we got to get better at. I kind of talked about offense. Defensively, I think we've got to do a better job of defending the big play in the passing game. It's kind of hit us a couple times. It hit us the other night. We blew a coverage for their one touchdown that they had, so we got to communicate better. And then we got to ride the wave on special teams. Kenny Perry's groups affecting every single game. Once again, affected the game with a big punt return. And we got to ride that wave. We have a lot of confidence right now on special teams. Our guys are really understanding how they can affect the game. We've got really good returners. And, our punter has been elite. I think he's the best in the country. He'll play a long time on Sundays. So we've got to continue that. To have a better second half.
Your most complete game from start to finish. What do you have to do to continue? Because this looks to be the team that you saw at the beginning of the season that you thought would make road in the Big 12.
Yeah, that's a great comment at the end, because that's what we've said it coming out for both those games. Be the team that we know we are. We against K-State, we do need a complete, game out of all three phases. They're a really good football team. I think they're as good as anybody in the Big 12, and they do a great job on defense. They pose a lot of problems offensively with their veteran offensive line. The things that we got to build off of what we're doing well, and the things I've asked the coaches to do is really detail their indie out to what we're going to see. There's things that you go in your individual drills and you're going to do every week because that's what your position has to do. But then there's also specific things that people are going to confront you with that you've got to really teach to the test and, challenge the coaches. I think that's one reason we're playing better in the offensive line. I think Coach Hamby is doing a really good job of understanding his guys and teaching to the things that we're going to do. we just got to continue to grow with that, you know, and you know, challenge our guys to continue to be consistent and play good football.
Mentioned the veteran offensive line on their side. How do you win in the trenches this week? Because I mean, it's obviously it's key for y'all with the run game, and obviously key for them to stop the run.
Yeah, you know, I really think, I mean, whenever you just talk about our starters and their starters, I mean, it's going to be a war. It's going to be like if that's where, as a football fan, you like to watch football, you know, between the tackles and guys getting after it, it's going to be an absolute war because, you know, I feel they're one of the strongest groups, just not in the conference but in the country. You know, they've got probably a first-round draft pick who plays everywhere. I've seen him play right tackle, right guard. He hasn't played center, I don't think, yet, but he's played left guard, left tackle, so 4 of the 5 in BB. I mean, he's a really good football player. And they're going up against, you know, what we feel like is one of our strengths, and Boog and Tony Bradford. It was great to get Duda back. Man, he looked fresh. He looked like he had a couple weeks off the way he was running around. You know, Quincy Ledette's played really well. Miles Cole is playing the run as good as anybody I've been around. You know, and Steve got going. Joseph Adedaray's playing really well. And so it's 2, I think, strengths going after each other. And, you know, kind of who wants it more. It's going to be a really physical game in there. They're really good. And so I'm excited about that because I love the trenches. I love, you know, big boy football of getting after each other. And so it's going to be really good.
Talked about it, but when you're stopping the run as well as you are right now, do you think it's a lot of your personnel, or do you think it's also attributed to what Coach DeRuyter's doing in play call and scheme?
Yeah, schematically, I thought he had an elite game plan, and our guys executed it last week. You know, I think that he came out, and the coaches' staff as a whole, they came out and they said, hey, this is what they did to us last year. We're not going to allow them to do it this year. This is what, you know, their number one run is. We did a good job stopping it last year. Let's stop it again, but let's don't give them something else to go to. And that put them in some situations where we could really get after the quarterback and dial up some pressure. And so I thought it was probably one of his best weeks of game plan wise. And now he's got to, you know, in the coaching world, you know, you asked me the question of grading me is like, what have you done for me lately? You know, and he's got another tough test to go in and put a really good game plan together. I really like how our defensive guys are adjusting each week. It's a lot because we got veterans like Rabbit. You know, I sit down and meet with those guys on Friday. We eat ice cream together before we go. They get a break, you know, kind of like that's after our team meeting, and go over the game plan to see how they feel. And, man, there's a lot of communication. That's me and Ben Roberts. When Jacob gets back, it'll be Jacob, C.J. Baskerville, Braylon Lux, and Joseph Plunk. Plunk's in there because he's like a coach, you know, and he's so dang smart. And making sure those guys feel really confident in what Coach DeRuyter's doing, and they feel like they're getting good reps. And so we need a really good week out of our defense to do it again.
Last one for me. I'm just curious. Saw Dre McCray get the ball a little bit on jet sweeps. Is it trying to become a little bit more of an emphasis to get him the ball and get that speed in space?
Yeah, you know, we've got a couple guys like that we can use. Dre was the one this week. You know, I think Nehemiah Martinez can be that guy. Miles can be that guy. But Dre, you know, in space has really proven to be a weapon. And, you know, and so we've got to do a good job of finding ways of getting him the ball. It was something that we felt like, you know, we've seen them give up yardage that way, and so it was something we wanted to take advantage of. And, man, he did a good job. He had one big play, and then they played it pretty good. But, you know, if he didn't have to hurdle Taj, it was probably going to be another big play. And it wasn't Taj. Taj on that block, you know, did a phenomenal job. We just didn't have enough space for him to get going again. But, you know, Dre's become a real weapon, and just finding ways for him to get the ball.
Hey, Coach, could you talk about Saturday night and night game and how that can build on maybe a home field advantage for you and what you'd like to see?
Yeah, you know, one, we've played well at home for a lot of reasons. We've got the best fan base in the country. They really affect the game. And And two, our guys love playing here, man. They love the energy. They love, Jones AT&T and playing in there. It's funny. I was, y'all know I read everything, so it's not going to surprise anybody. But, when we put out that we were going to wear all black, I had some fans that was like, oh, we're their Super Bowl or whatever, because I guess OSU wore all black last week. It has nothing to do with anybody we're playing. We know our fans. And we know we're playing at night in a big game, and it's homecoming. So we're wearing all black for Texas Tech and our fans. It doesn't have anything to do with anybody we're playing. I love that. I love that look. And, man, our guys are excited. And, of course, Zane's excited. Zane always likes wearing all black. And so, man, I can't thank our fans enough. And, man, I need them there on Saturday. We have an opportunity to gain a lot of momentum in this conference, and it's going to be a great test for us, but they sure do help when they show up.
Coach, I know we talk about the road woes and finally getting over that, but dating even back to the West Virginia game up to now and just allowing just 6 points in the second half all the way up to this point, what has changed in games, at least most recently, to be able to flip that switch in the second?
I think the guys, I think the coaches are doing a good job identifying things that are hurting us, adjusting. I think the players at halftime, we do have some vets. I mean, we're playing a lot of young guys. We're playing 5 freshmen on defense throughout the game. I mean, Dylan Spencer is playing, Dingle's playing, Jordan Sanford's playing, Chappie's playing, and BJ is playing. So we got young guys, but we have a lot of vets that have a lot of experience, a lot of snaps. And so I think whenever you have those guys, when you have a combination of the coaches understanding exactly where we are at in the game, and then we can make some pretty quick adjustments because of Rabbit and T.O. and Malik and Josiah, and those old guys. I think it's making a big difference. And then, I think just a sense of urgency in that second half of, playing off of what the offense, especially the last 2 games, playing off what the offense is doing, picking up their share of the load of making sure we're playing good on defense, and playing with a lot of confidence. If you play with confidence, you're going to play harder. The harder you play, the faster you play. And so we got to do that. And then I thought we tackled a lot better against Baylor than we did the 2 weeks before, and trying to make a big emphasis on that. I know that sounds probably crazy because it's football and you're supposed to tackle, but just becoming a better tackling team, that happens, with populating the football and then understanding the scheme even better. And so we got to keep doing that. It's going to be interesting too. I mean, if you look at the numbers, we have been really good in the first and third quarter. We've started well. K-State's been really good in the second and fourth quarter. And so you've got, 2 teams. I mean, like dramatically, when you look at the points scored in the first and third quarter for us, and the points scored in the second and the fourth quarter for them, I mean, it really shows up. And so, we've got to do a really good job of continuing that, but also being prepared to play extremely hard in the second and fourth quarter.
Back to the rushing defense, obviously, you got a pretty big task this week, but how much of, as far as this, especially this past week and how well the rush defense was, how much of this is, you think, a product of going against your offensive attack in the entire week?
Yeah, I think I'll 2 things. We have Tuesdays and Wednesdays, we have trade periods, meaning our 1 defense is going to go against our 2 offense. And so we want the speed of that. So you have that, and then you have the scouts. The one thing I'll say about the scouts is we have some young offensive linemen that Dylan Shaw, Nick Fattig, Caden Carr, that are going to be really, really good Raiders for us. And they're different, man. They got some nasty to them. And so I think Tony Bradford and Boog and Duda, they would tell you, man, they're going up against some really good young guys to give them some really good looks. But I think it does help, because when we start off every Tuesday good on good, team compete, minus 35, and get after each other. And, of course, our offense is going to come out and run. So we're seeing a really good running back. We're seeing a confident offensive line, and then the trade periods are really helping. And so I think that's making a difference in, coming out and trying to stop the run.
Last year, Adrian Martinez, he had his way on the ground with y'all. This year, a different quarterback, a little bit different of a quarterback, and Will Howard. I mean, what's the difference between those two?
Man, they as a team had their way. They rushed for 343 yards against us last year. And so kind of a little bit of the difference, Adrian's he's got some serious speed. Will's got really good speed. If you go back, he had a 70-yard run against OSU. They're running him. He's big. He's 6'5", 242 pounds. He's a dude. So it's not one of those deals to where that we're not going to have to stop the quarterback run game. We're going to have to stop the quarterback run game, especially in the red zone. He's really effective running the ball in the red zone. But if you let him, I just got through watching the Missouri game, and you let him run when he opens up, man, he's got some real speed. And the tough thing is he's so big, he's tough to tackle. And so we feel like we're going to get a lot of the same thing, as what we got last year. We've got to do a good job of being where we're supposed to be. A lot of stuff last year, yeah, they kicked our butts up front at times, but, man, we misfit we had some really bad fits on defense. And that's something that we've got to do a much better job this Saturday is fitting the ball. I think it was the second play of the game whenever, I think we got him down, but he had a huge run. Man, you can't fit that play up worse. As far as guys where they need to be in gaps, and I wouldn't have gone that far, but I could have run through that hole, and I might have only got 5 yards, but it's one of those deals that you're facing a big physical runner in Will Howard, and so we've got to do a good job. They got a young guy that they brought in, young quarterback. I think Will kind of got banged up a little bit against Missouri, so they didn't run him as much. But they brought another young quarterback in that was a lot of quarterback run game. I think every play that he was in was quarterback run game, and so they're still doing the stuff that they did last year. We got to be fit the run better to stop that. He's saying that. He's got some good stuff. Yeah.
Well, I think you've pretty much already implied an answer to this on Jacob Rodriguez. Even though he's only played one game,
Yeah.
there's no consideration to possibly trying to work it where you can limit him to 4 and redshirt him.
I'm glad you asked that question because it's so my mindset with Jacob is, man, he's got to be, because he didn't, he hasn't redshirted. He has a red shirt. There's kind of two things with that. We talked about it yesterday because we've got a couple freshmen like that have hit their 4 games. And I was like, man, if it's hard to play in the offensive defensive line as freshmen, but skill guys and edge guys, I think if they're good enough to play in the world that we live in now, whether it be the transfer portal or stuff like that, if they're good enough to play and they can help you win, then you go ahead and play them. With Jacob, my mindset is he 100% back? And if he's 100% back, he will definitely affect games for us to win. And so I'll sit down with him and his mom and dad, who are absolutely incredible people, and say, okay, here's where we're at. Where is that 100%? And that's the thing right now. I don't know. Plus, I want to take pressure off of Jacob because Jacob is really, he wants to be on the field. He's a leader. He's a captain. He wants to help us win games. And so I definitely want to put him in the best position to where he's 100%. So let's say he's not 100% this week. He doesn't play. Now if he's 100% against BYU, okay, let's go play. We get a bye week in there. How's he feeling going into TCU? That would be game 3. Now you're looking, at the rest of the season. I think if you could get him back this week, if you got him back this week, you play out the rest of the season. After that, you really got to look and see, where he's at, what's the benefits. Thing with a guy like him, I think he's trending this way that he's going to be an NFL linebacker. Let's say he's fully healthy next year and he leads the nation in tackles, you ain't going to have him anyway to get to that 5th year. And so it's kind of you really got to look at it that way of, I just want to be really smart with him that he's 100% back. If he had been redshirted in the past, and let's say he was like 85 to 90, he goes, Coach, I can go out and play X amount of snaps. You might play him. With him and still having that consideration, you really look at, is he 100% back?
And what are y'all thinking on Dylan Spencer right now when he hits his 4th game?
I think you play him. I think especially with the way I think we're trending with Bryce, playing more inside and being effective in there. He helps us because, losing a guy like Isaac Smith, you kind of lost some of that physicality. If he continues practicing the way he practices, then I think we play him. And the injuries we've had this year, it's also kind of made me rethink, again, if you can play because, one of the two guys that I didn't redshirt last year, Wesley Smith, had an season-ending surgery, and so he's getting that year back anyway. And so it's kind of one of those deals of as physical as football is. I mean, you're going to have guys to where they can go truly 4 years in a row without not having something that's going to cost them games.
You've known Brady Boyd, I guess, most of his life. Any good story about his quarterback background, since I noticed he was the 3rd guy taking snaps the other night?
Yeah, it has a lot to do. Like Brady, after he's through playing, man, he wants to be a coach. His dad's one of the brightest coaches I've ever been around in my life. And so he's grown up that way. Shoot, his mom could probably be a coach without a doubt. She knows a lot of football too. And so, one, just having a kid like that, and we're trending, we're in a good spot to redshirt him. He hasn't played yet, and so he's staying on track of us being able to redshirt him. But he's got the arm. But the biggest thing at quarterback is you got to have somebody, that can pick up the offense that quick. He probably could play running back, schematically knowing running back. But that's a guy that, we felt like he's got the arm. He's, been around the game all his life. And, he literally can play every position on the field when it comes to the skill position. And so he was the most logical. And I will tell you, Barron, I might hurt Barron's feelings. I'll definitely hurt Jake's feelings. Coy might have the best arm on the team, but with Coy, injury-wise, and then him being healthy playing receiver, we wanted to keep him in that spot. So he's another guy that definitely could have helped us there if we needed to. All right. Thank y'all.
Get it started.
Coach, we've talked about it quite a bit. How do you think that you're able to stop the run so well recently?
I think as guys start being comfortable, having a consistent group out there, we've been a little bit more basic in our calls. When you play fast and you play physically, you can do that when you are comfortable with everything. When you're maybe doing a little too much game plan, guys are thinking, you don't do it as well. And I think guys like Ben Roberts, he's got a bunch of snaps now, and he's playing like a starter should. So we got a bunch of guys that are doing that.
And you spoke about Steve Linton and Miles Cole last week about maybe not reaching y'all's expectations for that position. But Steve really flashed this week, and Miles played the run pretty well in my eyes. So how do you feel that those guys played this week? And, I mean, obviously guys behind them like Charles Esters, Joseph Adedire as well.
Well, in our defense, we expect our edges to make plays. And, Steve's been banged up, I think, since the summertime. He had a broken hand earlier, and he's been dinged up with lower body injuries. He was dinged up last week, and so he was limited. But I think he showed a flash of what he can do and things that we've seen from him on our practice field. And I think his upside is tremendous from here. I think Miles has really improved this year. He's doing a great job in the run game. He's such a big physical presence. He's doing a nice job with that, and he's doing a much better job of tearing off and making plays. And he's always been really good about chasing balls down because he's a big man who can run.
And finally, what are you seeing from Kansas State? They run the ball quite a bit and have an experienced QB, experienced offensive line as well.
Really good, well-coached football team. Very balanced on offense. They've got a trigger guy in Howard who acts like a veteran. He started about half the games last year, and he looks like it. He's very poised. He's a big guy, 6'5", 235, 240. He's got a cannon arm. He can run well, if you're into that kind of thing. He looks like a Josh Allen back there running their offense, and so he really makes the offense go. Up front, very experienced offensive line, very physical, very well coached in what they do. They're very multiple in their run game. They want to lead with the run, but if you look at them statistically, they're almost 50-50 exactly in what they're calling wise. So they keep you off balance where you can't just load up against the run. You get rid of Deuce last year and you breathe a sigh of release till you get Giddens this year, and he doesn't look like him, but he's a big physical back who runs through people, runs around them, and he's been really good in their scheme. And then you've got a tight end in Sinnott that you have to worry about, and then you've got skill guys outside that are getting some chunk plays for him. So it's a very difficult offense to prepare for, and our guys are going to have to do a great job of having great eyes and hopefully stopping the run so we can get them some predictable third and long situations.
I know you haven't been here for all of this, but you've been paying attention to the league for a while. When you see a record like 1-9 versus Kansas State in the last 10 or 6-14 in the last 20, what makes Kansas State such a tough opponent year after year after year that even continues into this year?
Well, you have to tip your cap to them. They've been a very consistent program. I think going back to Coach Schneider's days, he really turned that program around, and they have a culture around that program of physical toughness, good special teams, the things that help you win football games. And I think that even though you have a new coach in, that philosophy kind of permeates the program. Obviously our guys aren't worried about the past. We can admire what they've done and respect it. Our job is playing winning football here, and being able to get them here and at our home in front of our crowd, I think is going to be huge. Our guys are fired up to play at the Jones, and hopefully make it hard on them and see if they can handle 60 minutes of us.
Specifically, how does last year's team compare to what you're seeing this year from Kansas State?
A lot of similarities as far as overall structure, where they're going to test you in the run game with a lot of formations, motion shifts, quarterback run game. They're going to have, two-man surfaces, 3, 4, 5. They're going to make you defend a lot of gaps. They're going to give you a zone and gap scheme, and then they're going to give you a play action pass off of it. So it tests all your rules and makes you be very, very disciplined with your eyes and your gap responsibility. And
Back DJ Giddens, he's obviously great on the ground, but over the past 2 weeks, he's accumulated over 100 yards receiving. Who on your defense are you looking to shut that down so you can keep them in the trenches?
Well, I don't know that you look at one guy to shut down a running back in the pass game. They've done a nice job with him. He can catch the ball very well out of the backfield, which makes him a difficult matchup because a lot of times that goes to the linebackers. But we're multiple on our back end, so it really kind of depends on the down distance situation, what we're playing. We do a lot of simulated pressures that multiple guys are going to have to cover him. Clearly, though, you got to be aware when he's on the field that is one of the target guys, and whether he's running it or whether he's catching it, he's affecting the football game.
And then I kind of asked Coach McGuire this, but you're halfway through the season. Just kind of what's your assessment on your own self?
Of myself or of our defense?
Of yourself, of just how your coaching has been this year.
I got to improve each week like our guys do. This week, or not this week necessarily, but this year, you go in with a certain expectation, and then, it's football. Things change. And I've got to do a better job of, getting our guys calls that they can be effective in, because nobody cares who's on the field. It's if you're wearing a Red Raider hat, we expect you to play good defense. And I think we've done a better job of that the last couple of weeks. It's a matter of getting our guys to understand what we're trying to do defensively and what the offenses do, and trying to get them playing as hard and as fast as they can. And when you're playing good teams in the Big 12, you better be up to the standard or they're going to embarrass you. And so we've seen a little bit of all that, and hopefully we're on an upward trend of our guys playing with some confidence. I really liked last week the pressure we got on the quarterback. I'm hoping we can sustain that the next couple of weeks, but we know that this is a really, really good offensive line, probably arguably one of the best in this conference. So it'll be a challenge, and with what they do to be balanced, it's a challenge.
And Coach, when Coach McGuire was hired, he talked about playing complementary football. And with the offense running the ball more and effectively here recently, how has that helped the defense?
Well, I'm not real upset when we don't score in 30 seconds. It takes 5 minutes to score because we can actually make an adjustment or two on the sideline. Just to get that rest, to get our guys, able to focus in on what just happened, because coaches are doing a great job all across the country that what you practiced against, they're not going to run the next week. They're going to have a game plan in, and you've got to, get it written down, get it to the players that, hey, I know we practiced against X, they're doing Y, this is how we adjust. And so there's that constant cat and mouse, and when you've got additional time, because Taj is doing a great job of just getting first down after first down, it makes it a lot easier for us to make those adjustments.
Really come on and improved throughout the season. Can you kind of give us the story of him and just his season's progression?
Yeah, I really respect Charles and love the kid. I've been frank with him. When I first got here, I wasn't sure he was a Big 12 football player. And he came and worked his tail off since we've been here. Coach Ayu, I think, does a tremendous job of developing the skill of our outside backers so that they play technique as good as anybody in the country. They're all about toughness, and then he gives them a pass rushing skill set that a guy like Charles has really taken a hold of and gone with. And people go down. He's got his opportunity, and he got more snaps last week and took advantage of it because he plays extremely hard. He's a very smart football player, and I think the biggest thing with him is it's really, really important to him. So he spends the extra time. He's detailed in his effort and spends extra time watching film. And all that going together produces results.
Anything else for Coach DeRuiter? All right. Thank you, Coach.
Okay.
Coach, noticed that you used the jet sweep a little bit with Dre McCray, trying to get him the ball in space. Is that what you're trying to do? And is there anybody else that maybe you could see scheming up something like that to get the ball in space?
Yeah, Dre's kind of the speed guy. If we want to try to circle the defense a little bit, he's kind of been that go-to guy. But I mean, X White, Miles Price, Nehemiah Martinez, all those guys, I feel like we could use in that role. Just felt like last week, and I thought we were really, really close on that second one, especially to getting around the edge there and getting in the end zone. But kind of that bang block by Taj where he knocked him out, I think kind of spooked Dre a little bit, where if he'd have kept circling him, I think he could have got in there. But yeah, I think those other three guys could do that too. And but we felt good about Dre this last week against Baylor.
I know you have Taj rolling, but I noticed that you used play action a little bit to get Miles the ball in the flat. Was that something that you saw from Baylor, or was that something that you want to see going forward?
Yeah, a lot of that stuff was actually very similar to kind of what we had done against Houston. A lot of those maybe seemed like some play action, but a lot of that was really RPO game. Again, just kind of picking on the conflict player, and when they trigger, we're going to spit some out there. And then we had a couple true pass concepts that we threw out there to the flat to Miles. And again, I thought he had a good game and got open, and Barron delivered the ball, so it was good.
What do you see from the K-State defense? Seem they stopped the run decently, and obviously that's y'all's strength at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, they're the 14th ranked defense in the country, I want to say, in rush defense. So they've done a really good job all year stopping the run. Pretty much similar to what you saw last year. They're going to kind of be that 3-2-6-ish defense. Kind of gotten a little bit almost a more 3-3-5, against Oklahoma State and a little bit here and there. But, again, I think the biggest thing with Kansas State, which you see every time you play them, I mean, they play really, really hard. They're coached really, really well. Don't make a lot of mistakes. They play in their gaps. They hit where they're supposed to hit. And, again, I think they're just coached really well, and those guys play with extreme effort every snap. And so that's kind of going to be my challenge to our guys this week. So we got to strain more than they do. We got to finish blocks and have a great game plan and be ready to execute at a high level.
You've been paying attention to this program for quite a long time. What is it about a 1-9 record in the last 10 against Kansas State and 6-14 in the last 20 that makes them such a difficult opponent for the Red Raiders?
Yeah, I mean, I think you go back to kind of what I just said. I mean, they very rarely beat themselves. That's our plan to win. Number one, don't beat yourself. When you look at these guys, it's like they very rarely make mistakes. And for whatever reason, a lot of teams make mistakes against them. And again, I think that just contributes to their coaching and how hard those guys play and the kind of the culture that's been there for a really long time, starting under Coach Schneider. And I think Coach Kleiman's come in and done a fantastic job, clearly being the Big 12 champs last year. I mean, man, they just do a really good job, and they've done it for a really long time.
And how many snaps percentage-wise did Barron get last week with the first team?
Oh, man. That's a good question. Maybe 50%, maybe. I have to go back and really look at it.
So he's still kind of working back from getting banged up a little earlier in the season.
Yeah, he's doing fine. I mean, it's mainly just working through some stuff and making sure he's as close to 100% as he can get on Saturdays.
Coach, I know it's just a statistic, but if you look at it, Tech's 3 losses have been when we have more passing attempts than rushing attempts, and now you're going up against the number 1 rushing defense in the Big 12. Is there any insecurity in the passing game right now, or do you feel confident that – I know you take every play, you do what they give you, but do you feel like you're still going to try and aim towards running the ball more, or what's your game plan for this game?
Yeah, I mean, we're in the middle of game plan right now. Clearly when you look at it, I still think they're going to give you some run-friendly boxes, but I think we've got to be really good, which I thought we did the best job we've done all year this last week against Baylor, is on those perimeter blocks and making sure we're getting our receivers are getting in the run fits and our tight ends are getting in the run fits, because these are going to be some guys that their safeties are going to scream downhill and try to hit the running back in the hole at 2 to 3 yards. And so first and foremost, when we get one-on-one with the safety, we've got to make those guys miss, which we've done the last 2 weeks a few times, which turned from a 40-yard run into a 30-yard run, which we've had some of those. But also, again, I mean, I put a lot of pressure, and Coach Juice does a great job of really getting those push cracks and some of those things on the perimeter. We're taking 2 guys with us. So, again, I mean, we're going to have to throw the ball again at times, but we're still going to try to lean on that run game as much as we can. But, again, we know this is probably going to be the toughest test we've faced all year when it comes to a pure rush defense. So we're going to have our work cut out for us.
And then Talking on that rushing offense that you guys have. Last week, Taj had a career high 31 carries, and I know a week ago we talked about that you want to be a little bit smarter with him, keep him safe. Is there any intention to run Cameron and Nehemiah more this week?
Yeah, it was one of those deals, man, where it was just he didn't want to come out of the game, and we felt like he had the hot hand, which he's had. And when he's running that hard, I think Coach Perry does a really good job of feeling when he needs a blow, and then gets Cameron and Nehemiah in there at those times. But I just felt like he kind of just had that look in his eye where he's like, hey, just keep feeding me, man, and let's go run this thing up and down the field. And so we just felt good about him, and he felt good and wasn't getting fatigued or nothing. So we stayed on that. But definitely, I think as the more and more the season goes, those are things we got to keep looking at. But he feels good, and he's as you would be, a little bit sore after 32 touches, I believe, and some of the things he did on the in pass protection. He had one of the biggest knockout blows again this week in a pass pro I've ever seen, and great job on the speed sweep again, taking a guy out. So he's a physical guy, and he prides himself on that. So. But we need to be smart with him. But again, man, whenever he says, "Hey, I'm good and I want to roll," we're going to keep rolling him.
Coach McGuire mentioned that Barron did a good job of a couple of times when facing defensive fronts that maybe he would have checked in the passes. He stuck with the run. I'm just curious if how much input you had on that going into the game or throughout the game or not.
Yeah, really, we kind of went in the same week with the same kind of thought we did the week before is, don't try to be Superman, lean on your teammates. And I thought, again, he did a really good job of that. There were some where we were actually just talking about it, and I think he only had 5 or 6 checks all game, to be honest with you. And it's kind of interesting schematically. I mean, they kind of just kept giving us what we want to a certain extent. Now, towards the end, they started to cram the box late, and those were ones where I told him, like, hey, you're going to have a heavy box here, man. We're trying to run the ball, get out of here. And we handed some of those off that if it was first quarter, neutral down in distance, we would probably get out of those plays. But again, I just think he's doing a really good job these last 2 weeks of just managing the game and understanding the scenario where we're at. Are we in the first quarter? Is it 2nd and 2? Is it okay to check out and take a shot here? Or is it, 3rd and 1 and, hey, the box may be a little bit muddy, but we got to put our head down and go get 2 yards. And I think that's where he's done a really good job of understanding the scenarios of the game and getting us into good situations.
I haven't charted this, but it just seems that a lot of the passing game, the passes go on the perimeter. Is that a scheme thing, or is that something where the quarterbacks were Shuck and then now Morton are more comfortable doing? What's the genesis of that too?
Yeah, it's hard to. I'm trying to go back to the games before. I'm really on the top of my head this week. They were playing a lot of what we call wall coverage, and so they're literally turning their back to the middle of the field, trying to wall you to the perimeter. And so again, man, whenever they want to do that, let's throw it to the sideline. And we had, I think Miles Price had almost all his catches were towards the sideline. He had 100 yards receiving and 10 catches. So again, I don't want to bang my head against the wall just trying to throw balls over the middle. I'm a old school air raid guy. I want to run mesh and Y cross and get those balls over the middle. But if they're going to sit there and wall you, there's no point in running those plays. So again, I kind of just fell into what they were doing schematically against us. And we took a couple deep shots in the perimeter when they did go some true man coverage. Clearly want to hit on some more of those, but yeah, a lot of schematically what they were doing is that Mike linebacker, big number 2, is turning and getting his tail in the hole for us. So let's run outside and make the big guy chase the little guy outside. So it was good.
Is that a common thing where defenses schematically try and keep you all out of the middle of the field in terms of the passing game?
I think sometimes, I think for them, probably what they did is they had so much success on us last year. And they ran a lot of that wall coverage on us last year, and so they thought that maybe that'd be another good thing for them this year. And again, I just thought easy kind of game plan, to be honest with you, going into it, knowing a couple schematic things that they were doing. Hey, these are some easy plays, and we called them at the right times and just hit on those.
How do you feel? I know Taj does a lot of this work himself, but how do you feel like the offensive line has really helped him continue to keep going, especially in a game where you're running it 31 times with him?
Yeah, they're doing a good job, and I think their confidence is probably at an all-time high. And I think it helps when you do have a guy like Taj back there, because we've opened up some great holes for him, and then you look at some other snaps, and he's doing a lot on his own, making things happen when there's not a whole lot there. But that's called kind of them bouncing off each other, playing complementary to each other. I think the biggest thing for those guys that we're looking for is the finished blocks, like we said. We felt like we probably left anywhere between 50 to 100 yards on the field by just one guy not finishing a block, where we're getting kind of tackled almost from behind a little bit, where we could have been one-on-one at 15 to 20 yards on a safety versus getting tackled at 6 yards, which, 6 yards is still a great run. But I think those guys they're confident and they're feeling good and they're fired up about running the ball. So it's been a really good thing the past couple weeks, and they're confident and they're feeling good.
The defense gets you a fourth down stopper, I guess 5, like they did last week, or on Saturday rather. How does that kind of give confidence to the offense that they're able to go back out there?
Yeah, it's been great, man. I mean, Coach Drew and those guys are playing tremendous, and I feel like the energy's kind of feeding off each other. And I think these games, when you play teams like Baylor, that that they're kind of like us, they're going to go for it on fourth down. I think you almost prepare yourself for some of those scenarios where, most of the time, third down's money down when you play Baylor. Fourth down's money down a lot of times, depending on what the down and distance is. And I think our guys knew that and understood that, and so we kind of went in with that mentality to be ready. And our defense, again, they're playing really well and got after their quarterback and did a great job getting us the ball back. And so anytime we can get the ball back, man, it's huge for us, and our guys love that, and we're feeding off their energy for sure.
We know the whole backstory about Coach McGuire asking you about your offense. You said you wanted to do whatever you needed to do to win, but at the same time, you just mentioned being an air raid guy. Is it still kind of weird knowing that you're running the ball so well and you're calling run plays as opposed to pass plays?
It's kind of funny. Coach Perry actually asked me the exact same question this morning. I wouldn't say it's weird. I mean, again, I think every season you're going to have something happen, you're going to have things go down, and you have to adapt. I've never in my career ever ran the quarterback, and last year we got into a scenario where I felt Donovan Smith is a great running quarterback, and so you got to the point where you're going to use the quarterback run game, and then then he went down, and so then you bring Barron in, so you have to adapt to Barron's playing style. And so I think over the last 2 years we've definitely had to do some adapting, and I think this year it's been honestly a little bit easier just because you have a guy like Taj who's getting the bulk of the carries, probably, I don't know the percentage either, but I'd say 90% of the carries probably at least, versus last year when we were kind of doing a true 50-50 split between him and SaRodorick. I think it almost makes it a little bit easier because now you kind of understand a little bit more of his running style versus SaRodorick's, and you get him comfortable with certain plays. It's definitely a little bit different, but again, I think each week you got to go into it saying, how do we win games? Again, I'd rather win a game 14-10 than lose 52-49. So I've been in way too many of those in my career, so I don't want to get back to that. So whatever it takes to win. So definitely still some of those air raid routes, and you're still seeing some of those concepts being called in these games. But if we can run the football the way we've been running the football and we win games, let's run it every play. That's kind of the philosophy moving forward.
Bradley came into the season, obviously, with a lot of preseason hype, and it just seems like it just hadn't got on track. Is there a reason for that? What do you think is the issue there?
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know if this was before the Baylor game or maybe before Houston, but he was like the number 14th, I think, most targeted receiver in the country coming in to one of those games. Now, clearly, these last 2 games, Houston and Baylor, when you're running the football so much, just the targets aren't going to be there. And again, this last week, again, they're giving us the short to intermediate out routes to the slot receivers, and those outside guys just didn't get featured as much in those games. This is a week, for example, where I think that could flip with how they've been banged up in the secondary. Going to be interesting to see how K-State comes out and plays us. But last week against Kansas State, they had those outside guys for Oklahoma State did a good job and made some big plays from on the outside. So I wouldn't say it's nothing that he's not doing right or anything like that. We had the huge penalty that get called on him, which I don't need to talk further about. But again, he's doing a good job, and I know Barron has all the trust in the world in him. When he's out there, he's going to target him too. So he's doing a good job. And again, I just think these last few weeks, especially when you look at it, just how and when you get up in the game too, you're talking fourth quarter, you're running it basically every play. So then you're also taking another, 5 to a dozen pass attempts away, which some of those targets go his way as well.